In this installment of VIP Test Modeler 101 training, we're going to be creating synthetic test data. Now, by the end of this session, you will be able to create and review synthetic test data expressions. You'll be able to overlay synthetic test data onto a model in Test Modeler, and you'll be able to download and review the resulting data resolved. Synthetic data functions are overlaid on top of the model in Test Modeler using the data editor window. Formulas are formatted in the same way as standard Excel formulas. They can contain literal text specified in double quotes and can be combined into complex formulas. All of the data generation functionality in Test Modeler uses Excel in the background, with all the functions available inside each formula cell. This uses the full power of Excel functions for creating expressions, manipulating strings, and also resolving date-time values. If you head over to our knowledge base, you'll be able to see a full list of the data generation functions available. In this training session, we're going to be taking our earlier defined login model, which has static data overlaid, and replacing the static data for synthetic data generation functions. So let's jump into Test Modeler and start assigning synthetic test data. Okay, we're just inside Test Modeler here and we've got our login flow open. Now, in the previous video, we assigned static data values to each of the processes and tasks inside the model. Now, in this video, what we're going to do is use our synthetic data generation engine to create some synthetic data for each of these values. Now, if I go into one of the blocks here and we take a look at the test data and I click edit here, what you'll see is the static data value we had before. Now, if I click on this edit button here, what you will see is our data editor window appears. Now, inside here, it's decomposed into two parts. Firstly, we've got all of the Excel functions available, where we can go in and do various lookups, manipulate date times, and apply formulas, along with the VIP TDM synthetic data generation functions, which we can use to generate strings, various numbers, dates, addresses, companies, and other data types. Now, what we're going to do in here is we're going to replace this value with a synthetic email address. Now, to do that, I'm going to firstly delete the static value we had in here before. I'm going to type the equals button, and then I'm going to go through my functions list here and open up Internet. And what you'll see inside here is there's a function to generate email addresses. If I click on that function, click information, you'll see that this function returns an email. So I'll add this function in here by clicking add, and we'll see that that has now been added to the data editor window. Now, if we go inside Excel, so here I've got an empty workbook. If I press the equals button and start typing data, you will see all the data generation functions available in here as well. Now, this is useful because I can come into Excel and I can start testing my data expressions. So here we're going to apply the email function. So I'll close this off and press enter, and you'll see that this expression up here now gets resolved into a value. And if I drag this down, you'll see every time this function is called, it returns a new synthetic email address. Now, if I go to the VIP knowledge base here and open up the test data generation add-in, you'll see there's a function list of all of the synthetic functions inside VIP. This is a good piece of documentation to see the various functions along with examples of what is returned from them. Now, if we go back to Test Modeler here, the product of inserting this function is that whenever we pass through this valid username process, this will get resolved to a value given by this function. So we'll do the same here for our other valid username block. We'll paste in the expression. The next one we need to deal with here is an invalid username. Now, an invalid username is any string which does not contain an @ symbols. So if we go back into Excel here and we clear what we had before, I'm going to type the equals button now, and we're going to use an expression to generate a random string. So I'll type random here, and we'll see there's a function random string fixed length. If I enter that in, you'll see it takes 3 parameters, a length, so we're going to give this 10, whether we want to include numbers or not, which we'll say true, and we'll also exclude special characters here so we don't get an @ symbol. And we'll see that this gets resolved every time into a random string, as so. So we'll take that and we'll paste it into our field here, as so. And we'll click save. Now we're going to leave the valid password as is, and we're going to go in and play with the invalid password here. Now the validation for this field is the password must be between 0 and 10 characters, not including special characters. So because we want to create an invalid password here, we're going to go in and we're going to use the random string function again. So if I go up the top here, we'll see this function also available inside Test Modeler. So I'll click add. We're going to give a length of 12. We're going to include numbers, and we're also going to include special characters in here as well. And we'll hit save. So we'll save these off. We've now replaced our static values with synthetic data generation functions. So I'll save the model here, and we'll now do another generate. We'll go into tests and we'll click the download button here to download our data sheets. And let's take a look at the data template now to see the resolved values. So we'll go into the data sheet at the bottom, and what we'll see here for the email and password now, these have been resolved using the synthetic data generation functions. Now if we go back to the test data window here, what we can also do is we can be more expressive over the functions we generate. So we can combine these with other data variables which may have been set throughout the model by adding an ampersand symbol, followed by selecting the variable we want to reference and clicking insert. And we'll see here we're now referencing the email variable from the model. And we'll just remove that. We can also use the full power of Excel functions in here, so we could have if logic along with any other function or expression that can be resolved inside Microsoft Excel. So that's how we can overlay rich synthetic test data functions inside of Test Modeler. Thanks for watching this video. Any questions, please send an email to james.walker@curiosity.software.